Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was just announced as our next upcoming Planet of the Apes movie, so I thought I'd go back and rank all 9 films. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm the Movie Ranker, and today I'm going to be ranking all 9 Planet of the Apes movies from worst to best. This franchise is fairly consistent for the most part. Of course, we got our ups and downs, but I had fun going through all these movies. Most of them were first time watches for me, either than I seen the original before and the Matt Reeves trilogy. But aside from that, these were all first time watches, so my ranking is probably not the right ranking, but this is how I feel. There's going to be some controversial picks here, but let's get right into it. So for me, coming in the last place at number 9, I got Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Now, this sequel did not waste any time taking this franchise completely off the rails. The first half is basically just a rehash of the original. It's just you're going through the same beats and everything. But then the second half just goes completely bonkers and weird. We get this underground society of humans who are mutants and telepathic, and it just seems so out of place and bizarre coming off of the original. There's some interesting ideas here, like mixing religion and science, and how this underground society views the bomb as their god. But yeah, it just, like I said, it seems too bizarre, too out of place in this franchise. I absolutely hate what they did with the Taylor character. We get god-awful special effects and weird visions and shit. I will admit that the props and the set designs look really good when we're underground, like showing the old New York and that. I'm like, okay, that's kind of clever. But yeah, everything else is kind of awful. I enjoy spending time in this world, but this was just a terrible story. Up next, at number 8, I got Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Yeah, this one has a better story, but it's just so goddamn boring and dull. Literally, the first hour of this movie is just interrogations and like courtroom scenes where it's like, okay, and it feels like it's in real time. It's just dragging on. The pacing is awful. The last half, when we actually get an escape, the last like 20 minutes is interesting. But then you have to rush through the pregnancy, the whole really depressing and bleak ending. Like, this ending kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's shocking how dark it gets. And it also makes absolutely no sense how Zira and Cornelius made it back in time with Taylor's spaceship when we clearly seen it like land in the middle of a lake or something in the first film. I was like, in the amount of time they had to get that out in part 2 and figure out how to run it and use it, it just makes zero sense. You can't think about that type of stuff. But I do enjoy the Zira and Cornelius characters, so that helped me with this film a bit. And I like the questions this film asks, like, would you go back in time and kill Hitler as a baby, even though technically he's innocent as a baby, or kill his mother, for that matter, to stop the whole, Holocaust and that? It makes you think about things like that. I like those type of questions. But overall, this movie just dragged on for me way too much. It was interesting, but kind of a chore to get through. Up next, at number 7, I got Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Now, this is a huge step up from the last 2 movies I talked about. I actually enjoyed this one quite a bit, and it wrapped up the original saga pretty neatly. It always reminded me of the TV series. I remember the TV series that came on back in the day on cable. Well, that took place right after this film, so it really has that feel to it. I like how we don't only have the underground humans that are becoming mutants attacking the apes, but we also have the gorillas who are kind of turning on their own. You know, we have a little civil war in here as well, a lot of tension, and yeah, I just like all the different angles the villains come from. It is obvious they didn't have this big budget to make a big battle and a war that'd be epic in here. It really shows when it shows the enemies approach and there's like 20 of them. They're trying to make it seem like a big army, but you can tell there's just not that many actors in there. And the action leaves very little to be desired. But I thought the story was strong. I was invested with all the characters, good and bad. And I like how they all talked, the apes and the humans. Everybody could communicate. A good enough entry in the franchise, in my opinion. Up next, at number 6, I got Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Now, this one I feel like really helped tie in all the original sequels together with, Caesar finally being here, starting a revolution. How we find out that from part 3, how Escape of the Planet of the Apes, how when Vera and Cornelius came, they brought a virus along with them, which killed all the cats and dogs, which in turn made humans turn to apes as pets and eventually as slaves. So really, this kick-started everything, putting things in motion. And of course, Caesar starts this revolution, like I said, getting the team together, all these apes, to turn on the humans. And it's just interesting that the humans actually caused their demise in the future by fearing it. So by them turning on the apes early on, it really caused this whole time loop to happen, and I just absolutely love that. And to me, this is the first entry in the original saga that had me excited again ever since the original. Like, part 2 and 3, I was like, but this one put me back on track, and I was like, hell yeah, this one's fun. The whole revolutionary side of things, where they're like planning their attack on the humans, was really rushed. It could have been fleshed out a lot better, but this was still highly entertaining, as an interesting story, interesting characters, and a pretty fun, epic final act. I like how everything wrapped up. This one is definitely one you have to watch. Coming in at number 5, I got Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. Now this is where I'm going to start getting heat. Most letterbox rankings that I've seen of this franchise, this one's at the bottom, and I just don't get it. I get that a lot of people don't like that twist ending, the Abraham Lincoln. I don't like it either. There really was no build up to it. There's no context. It doesn't make any sense. When I first watched it, I was just confused, and I found the Abraham Lincoln statue to be silly. Of course, it got me to do some research, and I understand it now. Apparently, the main villain, Thad, or Thade, however you call him, used the technology that was left behind to go back in time before Mark Wahlberg's character and change Earth. So yeah, I get it. It just was executed terribly. There was no build up to it. There's nothing to lead you to that conclusion. But that definitely is the biggest negative in this film. But the rest of the film is great, in my opinion. I had a lot of fun with it, especially thinking this was going to be a dumpster fire, and I'm like, hell, I enjoy this one. I like that it's not just a copy and paste remake. There are some similarities here between the original and it, but that's about it. There's just the backbone of the main story. Everything else has changed quite a bit, and I like that, especially the intro on how he gets to this other planet with his monkey in space. I thought that was really clever. Mark Wahlberg is serviceable as our main lead. He's not great or anything. I feel like it could have been anybody as this lead guy. He lacks a bit of personality and charisma, but everyone else is amazing, especially the apes. Tim Roth as our main villain, like the general. He's friggin' ruthless and, brutal and everything, and he's just pure evil. And yeah, he plays the villain so well. I love his look too. All the apes have really cool designs and costumes in this one. And I also like the female ape that helps out the humans. She's like being rebellious, kind of an anarchist towards the other apes. And she believes that we can live in harmony. She's kind of like the Caesar of this film, if you will. So aside from the poor attempt at a twist ending, I feel like the rest of this flick is a really good time and doesn't deserve the hate. Up next, at number 4, I got the original Planet of the Apes from 1968. And for being a 60s film, this is incredibly impressive. From their set designs to the setting to the costumes and that. Yes, at first glance, you can tell that this is just people wearing costumes of apes. But as soon as you get invested in the story, which happens quickly, you forget about that. Your brain forgets about that. You're like, you actually believe that this is a species of intelligent apes. And that's movie magic right there, and they just did it so well. I really like our main lead, Taylor, in this. He reminds me of a Willem Dafoe type of actor, and just the way he comes off, and I think he was great in this as our lead. You really believed him. And this original film just really lets you reflect on how we are as humans. And like, I love the whole role reversal, how the apes are putting humans in cages, and it just has a lot to say about classes, about society, obviously animal abuse in there too. All the themes that are in here are really strong, and the way they execute them, I think they did a perfect job. And the story unravels slowly, kind of like a slow burn, but it's never boring or dull. I was always invested from start to finish. We get a great musical score in here with a lot of like natural noises and like glass and stuff. It just really adds to this feeling like you're on a desolated planet that you're unfamiliar with. But of course, the big twist ending is that they're on Earth. Nowadays, it might be common knowledge that they were on Earth the whole time because this is an old film and everybody knows the twist. Kind of like how Vader is Luke Skywalker's dad. But I could just imagine watching this in cinemas in 1968 and being blown away seeing the Statue of Liberty at the end and being like, and it's clever the way it plays out. They give you clues along the way that it was Earth the whole time. Of course, some of the action and dialogue can be a little cheesy at times, given this is a 60s film, but I'm sure at the time it was innovative and felt modern. And yeah, this is an extremely influential movie that is very well done and holds up for the most part. Reaching our top three, I have War for the Planet of the Apes, which just happens to be my least favorite of the modern trilogy, Matt Reeves' trilogy of Planet of the Apes movies. But just because I had to pick one as my least favorite, these movies are all so friggin' good. One of the best trilogies ever made, guys. So don't get mad at my placement in my top three. It's just funny because for a movie with war in the title, there's not a whole lot of action in this flick. Of course, the final battle is pretty epic and awesome, incredible to watch. But the rest of the movie is kind of a slow burn. It's more about the personal war inside Caesar himself as he struggles to keep faith in humanity after everything he's been through and losing his kids and his wife. And yeah, he loses focus on his mission, what his values are, and revenge kind of takes over. And on top of that, he's still suffering from the trauma that he had in the last film dealing with Koba and having to kill another ape after that was like his sworn rule to never do. And I also really like Woody Harrelson's character as our villain, the Colonel, because he's caught between two wars. He's in a war against the apes and in a war against the other humans that he went rogue on. And both him and Caesar have this connection of driven mad for over revenge for their families, right? And you can really see his motives. Now, I used to be mixed on the ape that they find called Bad Ape, the one who talks, because I was like, he seemed kind of out of place. There's a little bit of forced comedy with him. But you come to realize you kind of need that in a movie like this, because this movie is very dark, very bleak, very sad, pretty much from start to finish. So those moments kind of lighten you up a little bit, keep you going, and this keeps you from being so depressed, I guess. But yeah, this was just a great conclusion to the new trilogy. It wrapped up the storyline pretty well, Caesar's character story, and it was just satisfying. Up next, at number 2, I got Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Now, I realize this is the fan favorite. Most people put this as number 1, and it is great. I don't blame you. It's my number 2, and I love it as well. And I really like how this one showcases not only the battle between the humans and the apes, but their eternal struggles on both sides. They have people stirring the pot, and they're really the ones causing the big fights and the big wars, right? Especially on the ape side, we got Koba, who has zero faith in humanity. He feels like Caesar is going to have them all killed by keeping trusting them, right? So you see where he's coming from, how he wants to take out the humans. He sees the weaponry they have, and it's just so badass watching apes run around with assault rifles, shooting like gangsters. It's just so cool to watch. Yeah, and Koba is just one of the biggest dickheads in this franchise, but you have to love to hate him, you know? He's a great villain because you see where he's coming from. I mean, after all the experimentations and the torture he went through with the humans, and then throughout all the films, you keep seeing how bad they are and how through their fear they're killing them, and the apes through their fear they're killing the humans. It kind of goes both ways here, and this all leads to this badass epic battle at the tower near the end, and a face-off between Caesar and Koba, and it is epic. It is emotional. It's everything you want from one of these type of films. The action is great. They touched up the digital effects perfectly on this one. It was Not all there in Rise, but this one they kind of perfected it. And yeah, it's just a great sequel. But coming in the first place, you guys must have already guessed it, is Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I know I'm in the minority of putting this one above, even above all the rest of them in the trilogy, the modern trilogy, but this is my favorite Planet of the Apes movie out of all of them. I'm a sucker for origin stories, and I think this one is one of my favorite ones. Seeing the beginnings of Caesar, they perfected it in my mind. You really feel like you're growing up with Caesar. You're seeing him as a child, and you're by his side as he's growing up and becoming more mature. And it really puts you on his side when things start to go down and they turn on the humans and escape the facility there. You're rooting for the apes, not the humans, which is crazy because that's our own kind. And for a movie to make us do that is incredible. It's magic. I think the pacing is phenomenal. Never a dull moment. I'm always invested into this one from start to finish, especially when we get to like the facility, the enclosure where they're keeping all the apes in cages. From there, where Caesar starts planning his escape, right to the epic ending on the bridge. It's just some of the best in cinema for me. I absolutely love it. There's feel good moments in there, especially when he gets back at the one who keeps mistreating them and shocking them. Caesar technically kills the guy, but it's his own fault. But you can see the switch in his eyes when that happens, and yeah, it's just so epic. Love all the planning, like I said, and how he gets the apes on his side and then eventually juicing them up with the virus to get them as smart as him. And it's just epic. It's feel good. You're rooting for Caesar the entire time, and it's just fun from start to finish, even though there's a few emotional moments in here as well. Sure, like I said, some of the digital effects maybe aren't as top notch as its sequels, but this is 2011 and it's not bad or anything. It never distract me from the story. So they're serviceable, that's for sure, and it still looks pretty good for 2011. In the end, I just find this film emotionally rich, a really creative way to reboot the franchise, and I just absolutely love it. So it easily comes in the first place in my ranking. So there you have it, guys. There's my ranking of all 9 Planet of the Apes movies. I love to hear your ranking down in the comment section, or the ones you've seen at least. Let me know which is your favorite, your least favorite. We'll have a great discussion. You can follow me on Letterboxd. Link to that is in the description of this video. That's where I keep all my rankings and my list. You can go check that out if you're interested. And yeah, can't wait for the new one, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I'm sure it's going to be great. It's supposed to be set in the future after the Matt Reeves trilogy, so excited for that one. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.